Welcome into episode 71 of the Level Flight podcast. I'm Brian. I'm joined by Elliott today. Connor couldn't make it today, so just the two of us. Only a couple things to talk about today. There was only the
Yeah,
one game that we haven't really had a chance to, really go over. There was the Bettman stuff. But firstly, Elliott, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, tired as always, but that's just the grind in the middle of the school year.
Yep.
But yeah, no, let's kick it right off here, right into the fireside chat and the Gary Bettman press conference that preceded yesterday's Jets Blues game. Um, to make it short and sweet, essentially Bettman was saying, obviously the Jets are aware that they need to bring up some tickets and they address the whole corporate thing, but that I think the exact line he used was, "Winnipeg is a place where hockey matters," and then went on to essentially say that there's really no threat of a relocation. That it's fine in the sense of the board of governors aren't freaking out about it. Um, I'll have more on a little bit of what to say after that. But Elliot, I want to know what you thought of Bettman's comments, both in the fireside chat and in the press conference.
I think, I paid a little bit more attention to what was going on in the press conference because you knew that the reporters were going to be a little bit more like focused on the questions. You knew Sarah Oleski was probably going to tailor the questions a certain way. There was probably specific stuff that she had to stay away from. So I actually thought, well, at one point, I believe it was early on in the interview, what exactly I said in the last episode. If you didn't hear what I said, go back and check out episode 70. He said the exact same line, which I thought was hilarious. I was sitting there laughing, but he followed it up essentially by saying, there's no real worry. I think the other thing that we can take away from this is Bettman, as much as he's a money guy, he sees that this market means something to this city. And it sounds like him and the board of governors, if there was ever an issue, want to do everything they can to keep the team this time. This isn't oh, you know what, we're small market, let's try to move this team to greener pastures. This is a city that they understand the city needs the team and wants to have the team. So I just think it was the exact answers he was looking for. Or I guess what everybody else was looking for. There's no panic. There's no nothing. He believes that it was blown out of proportion completely. And, it was what it was. And I'm just happy that he gave the answers. I'm hoping that most of the answers that everybody was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was blown out of proportion purely because the fan base is very guarded because of the history of losing a
Mm.
team, and I get that. I wasn't anticipating him coming up there, and like as we said, we referenced last episode. I did a whole thing about how it's going to be a very boring thing where we're not going to get any new information. It was actually more positive than I would have anticipated. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
just going to be like, "Yep, Mark said it best. Mark said it best." No, but Gary was very, very complimentary of the market, very complimentary of the fans, of the team. Went out of his way to talk about how much True North has developed in the downtown area. And I thought that was, very important to the fact that it didn't just seem like he was very surface level about it. Like he seemed legitimately, sincere in talking about the successes of the organization. And I think that's key because I feel like whenever he talks about the saving of like the Arizona Coyotes, he talks about that a lot of the negatives and then tries to flip it positive. I feel like he led with the positives and then tried to dispel any negative whatsoever. So it felt very, you know, it felt guarded in the sense that he wanted to make sure that people weren't freaking out about it anymore. But he also did, acknowledge the fact that they do need to bring tickets up and they do need corporate sponsorships. But he said that, ownership has acknowledged that. And I know his interview with John Liu during the game last night was great because they were having a back and forth, and then at one point he goes, "I don't know how I could be any more reassuring than I have in the last 5 minutes of this interview," with some of the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that he was saying. But no, I felt a little bit concerned given the circumstances of everything, but I don't feel too worried anymore just with what was said and how complimentary of the market he was yesterday. So
Yeah.
um, It's a weird situation where obviously I don't want to talk too much more about it because we've talked about it for LFP Live, an episode, and now, but like there was enough said that I feel like it was important to touch on. But unless you have anything else to say, we might be able to roll right into our actual game that happened.
I mean, other than I think the discourse should stop. I think that his Bettman's whole agenda was to make sure the discourse stopped. I think that he was being the parent of, you have that situation where kids hear a rumor and it's a parent trying to shut down that rumor, going, nope, there is nothing true about what is going on. So I think for any Jets fan, they should be super happy about what they got out of all of the media availability and the fireside chat and everything. That I actually think this made Gary Bettman look more positively than most people see him. Like, I think this was like a huge boost to his not his I keep wanting to think the word ego, but like to his image. I think that was just
Oh
big
yeah.
for him. It was huge just with his answers. And like you said, he wasn't denying anything. He wasn't trying to deflect. He took all the questions, he answered all of them. You could see in his face that he was being truthful. And I think it was starting to anger him, the amount of questions that kept coming from the media that were similar to the exact same ones. So, other than that, yeah,
Well,
let's get into the hockey game.
before I do, I just want to say one thing. He made a very, very funny comment about how he was getting applause in the fireside chat, and
Yes.
he said he could get used to that because let's be real, I don't think he's been applauded anywhere in the last 20 years. So um,
Nope.
yeah, that was funny. So yeah, so Gary, he has come and gone. I feel like we can stop talking about it now, at least for a while. And
Hopefully.
we can get back to the on ice discussions. But before I do that, I'm going to quickly roll a message from our sponsor this week, DraftKings. You're going to hear about some of their NHL promotions. So we're going to hear from DraftKings, and we will be right back. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. And welcome back into episode 71. Thanks again, DraftKings, every week for being our sponsor. We always appreciate it. Go check out the promotions. We always list it in the description of both the audio and video podcasts. So, yeah, they beat the Blues last night. They have swept the season series for the first time since 2016-17, which is wild to me because the Blues, aside from their cup winning year, have been kind of middling. So
Yeah.
um, it's nice to kind of be done with that so early because I always find that they're the one team that kind of just hangs around and angers me. But yeah, so let's talk about the game a little bit. I really liked what I saw in terms of three of the lines. And
Yep. I
I
would
can
agree.
assume everyone knows at this point which line I didn't necessarily like, but we'll get to that. The one line that I really want to highlight, though, is that second line because it looks like there's some legitimate chemistry, and
Mhm.
that makes me so incredibly excited. But it also has me feeling very conflicted because there's obviously a lot of talk about reuniting the top line of Ehlers, Scheifele, and Velarde, which would mean you would immediately split Monahan and Ehlers after they've started to develop some chemistry. Before we get more into the complications of having to move lines around. What did you think of, I mean, specifically that line, but the rest of the forward lines?
I thought the forward lines were, other than obviously the first line, I thought they were perfectly fine last night. There's a couple dilemmas here. You obviously talked about Ehlers and Monahan developing chemistry, and you see that. And whether that's been Ehlers on the right wing or Ehlers on the left wing, it doesn't matter. They seem to be figuring each other out perfectly fine. Obviously, yes, you have the conflict of Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde, and I wouldn't really be worried about that chemistry too much because we see that Ehlers and Scheifele have lots of chemistry. It would then be trying to, if they ever did go to that, it would mean that Kyle Connor would have to go to the second line, and he would then have to build chemistry with Sean Monahan, which at that point, I don't know if that works. So to me, right now, the team is winning. As much as people want to complain that they've been complaining about losing the team, and they've also been complaining about the team isn't winning the right way, they're getting 2 points. They have 37 wins and 57 tries. They're winning games sustainably, unsustainably. They've done it all this year. They've won it on the special teams. They've won it by 5-on-5. You really just have to take the Jets at face value at this point that they're a good hockey team. And they at least have a first line that hasn't played great 5-on-5, but is producing. And they've got 3 other lines that are really good at 5-on-5, and they're contributing on special teams. The other thing that I do want to say is, as much as it does hurt me to have that line of Iafallo, Monahan, and Ehlers, which seems to be also, I want to say that Iafallo seems to be finally getting some chemistry up in the top 6 because he didn't
Finally
have
scored
any.
again.
Yeah, after 20 games, that's nuts. But it really felt like he didn't have any chemistry the other times that he's been in the top 6, other than that 4-point night that he had with Connor and Scheifele. But realistically, as much as I want to have Cole Perfetti up there, this Jets team isn't a middling Tweenersville team, right? If this was a Minnesota Wild or a St. Louis Blues, where they're kind of just chasing the playoffs, but they're not really probably going to make it, like they're in that middle ground, sure, you want to have Perfetti getting as much ice time as possible. But if he's only going to play 13 minutes a night anyways, and moving him away from Ehlers and Monahan means that line gets even more ice time, even though Ehlers was supposed to get more ice time with Monahan. But if they get bumped up even more, then I'm okay with it at this point, because the Jets we're in the back half of the year. You just need to find a way to win games. And I thought Perfetti had a great game with Barron and Nemestikov last night, because that's the other thing. That line becomes more dynamic without having a coup. As much as I like Kupari and David Gustafson's David Gustafson, I think that fourth line is a little bit more dynamic than just a forechecking line. If you have Nemestikov as the fourth line center, sure, you're not going to win many faceoffs with him at center, but though Nemestikov and Perfetti have chemistry and they have shown to, play well together, and you get a little bit more dynamic. He's going to score a goal at some point as well. Nemestikov, he's got to score. But it is what it is in terms of where Ehlers is going to play and where Perfetti is going to play. But if the team is winning games and each individual player is playing well with who they're playing with, then you just got to roll with, at this point, what's working. So as much as we want to get mad at bonus, we're not playing specific lines we want them to play. They're winning games, and specific guys are starting to turn the corner. So you really can't complain.
Which I'm waiting for him to put sort of money to mouth here, because it's actually Connor asked him a question last night about the fourth line, and he went out of his way to say that he wants that line to succeed because he wants to remove some minutes from the top lines. He went out of his way to say that he wants to keep the Lowry line between, I think it was like 15 or it's like 13 to 15 to 17 minutes or something like that.
The math didn't really make sense, but
it didn't. But I think he sees them as the pure matchup line.
Yeah.
But he went out of his way, though, to say if that line succeeds, he wants to take minutes off of, the 8 top guys, which would be I would say is good of a solution you're going to get to any sort of line dysfunction, at least for right now. But I thought that fourth line was great last night. They hemmed in the Blues a few times. I thought Vlad Nemesnikov had a fantastic game. I mean, I'll point to one example where he's just one of those guys who he's going to give his all every shift. And there was that play where he stripped the puck off the Blues defender and got a one-on-one chance against Hofer, and then got buried into Hofer.
Yeah.
But I thought that he had a great game. I thought that fourth line was really dynamic in terms of, getting to the deep parts of the zone and keeping the puck there, and then allowing for the other line to come on top of a top or like a very tired Blues team.
Mhm.
And I feel like if he does, in fact, start playing that fourth line more to reduce some of the minutes of the top six, I think you're going to see a lot harder of a time for other teams trying to match up, because obviously we haven't seen that fourth line against true top competition yet. It'll be interesting to see how much he plays them against the Stars, because he was also talking about how important that game is.
Yeah.
Because we've seen obviously that a line like that will be essentially glued to the bench for the back half because they need to play their top guys. But if he is honest about what he was saying with trying to get minutes off the top guys down the stretch here, I think this might be the moment where they finally have those four dynamic lines that can help balance the attack. And then that'll help take some of the load off of that very, very difficult top line that can't produce at all. But if maybe they can get a bit more of a tired opponent that they've worn down a little bit lower in the lineup, that maybe then they can start producing. But yeah, last night was a struggle for them. They did manage to be +2 in the goal differential, which is,
I
at
don't
that point,
know.
it's a miracle. But
Their XG is, or expected
like what,
goals is just
14% or something. It's awful.
14.7. Like they were the second worst line behind, I forget who, one of the Blues lines, it was like less than 10%. But it's getting to the point where it's inexcusable. Like Bonus had already said that he'd pulled that line away to have a chat with them about their 5-on-5 play. Like, what do you do at this point? Because you have a
Yeah.
chat with them, and then their next game they're even worse. Like, I don't know. And then Kyle Connor scores off of a great.
Which,
I know it's
hey,
a great
he
individual
can,
pass from Morrissey, but like,
like, if he can just start even producing a little bit more, I'll have a bit more of a leash for that top line, because Kyle Connor has shown that he can score at will at times. But up until recently, at 5-on-5, he just hasn't been scoring goals. So
yeah,
um, we'll see about that. I do just want to quickly touch on Josh Morrissey, because he has 11 assists in his last 5 games.
yeah,
And I think somehow, and maybe it's a good thing, um, he has gone from being a guy that people are saying, "Oh wow, I don't know how he, flew under the radar for so long, and then blew up last year and had just this insane season." He's following it up, and I
yeah.
feel like suddenly he's fallen back into the shadows again, and people are talking about other defensemen. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe the spotlight isn't necessarily something you want on, a number one defender when he's doing this well, because he can just keep producing and teams are going to take him for granted. But I want to shout out Josh Morrissey for just being, aside from Connor Hellebuck, being the most consistently good Jet that we've had all season.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to, appreciate that, because um, we obviously had spoken at length before, last year, where he was obviously, it was he got Norris votes. Um, we need to appreciate the fact that we have a consistent defender for the first time in a while for multiple
Mhm.
seasons in a row, because everyone seemingly was up and down for a while there. And yeah, but yeah, the defense group, actually, I had a nice time watching them last night, because you actually had a
Other than
decent
Nate
game
Schmidt,
from.
but
I mean, Nate Schmidt. It's hard to, I think, pick little pieces about his game, because he plays very minimally, I find, and for the
yeah.
most part, that pairing is very quiet. So when they do make some sort of glaring error, it stands out more.
Which he
Um,
gave up the second Blues goal. That was double
exactly.
mistake. That was double.
Yeah.
That was also double mistake. He got the puck taken off of him when he tried to clear it on the boards. And then the worst part of it is he threw it right to Brendan Sod after he was trying to clear it. So,
Yeah.
but
No, it's I feel like Schmidt, he's one of those guys that when he makes mistakes, he makes them loud.
yeah,
So obviously you're gonna pick up on that more. I think he's been solid enough this season that obviously you don't want him to, lead up to a goal there, but it wasn't it's obviously it's not great, but the rest of the defense group I was really happy with. That second pairing actually had a really nice night. Brendan Dillon scored a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Pionk themselves actually were doing a really good job of just playing consistent and not being too risky with things. Obviously, I mentioned Morrissey, but yeah, it was a decent all around sort of effort. There were little things we can pick on, but I'm not gonna be too picky about it when they take care of business against a team that's kind of teetering with playoff spots and everything. So it'll be a big test for them. Well, when you hear it tonight against the Stars, where they won't have the ability to make these little mistakes and get away with it, and it'll be interesting to see how that top line fares against the Dallas top guys,
Yeah.
and if we can get more consistent offense out of that second line. But no, I'm very interested to see how they come out tonight. I feel like a big start is necessary because Dallas is one of those teams that if you get down, I don't feel very confident about clawing back into it. We've seen it already this year with them, but it's been a while, so we will see how that goes. But unless you've got anything else about last night's game, about the upcoming schedule, I think we'll just go on and get out of here.
I think that's it. I mean, got to get, again, like I said about the whole, like just after the Bettman thing and Jets fans complaining, you at this point of the season, we can complain all we want. You just need the wins at this rate. You just need to keep getting wins. You've got 4 games in hand on the Stars. It would be huge to get 2 points here because that puts you into first with multiple games in hand still.
Mm-hmm.
So at this rate of the season, you just need wins. And we're probably going to start talking next week potential trade targets. So that should be really
Absolutely
good that we might see at deadline day.
Yeah. So yeah, as I said, this one's going to be coming out, on Thursday, and then we'll have a couple days here, and then we'll be able to do a nice long chat about what happened in the Stars game on LFP Live, which might be the first time with all 3 of us. And then we'll work into next week where it's deadline week. So it'll be an exciting time. We're still ironing things out, but we'll have some plans on how we're going to present our deadline coverage. So keep locked on our social media. We'll have a bit more of an idea of what we're doing soon. But in terms of today, we're going to get out of here. A nice short episode. Wasn't too much to talk about. Nothing bombshell-esque to come out of either the game or the fireside chat. So from myself and from Elliott, thank you so much for listening to episode 71 of the Level Flight podcast. We'll see you on Sunday, bright and early, 9 a.m. for LFP Live. Have a great day, everyone. See ya.
Peace.